Pocahontas announced that she's formed an exploratory committee for a 2020 presidential campaign, which is pretentious establishment talk for, I want my name to be out there first without exhausting my available campaign dollars by having to campaign for the longest. She put out this video, very cinematic looking, that sums up the general message of what her campaign is going to be, which then warrants the question of, why do you need an exploratory committee to tell you whether or not you should run and what you should run on? I mean, does anyone really think that she hasn't been planning this since 2016? Not likely. So we're going to go through this and talk about why it's garbage.
In our country, if you work hard and play by the rules, you ought to be able to take care of yourself and the people you love. That's a fundamental promise of America. A promise that should be true for everyone.
That promise is true for everyone that both works hard and follows the rules. The fundamental idea of this is the idea of self-responsibility. She's trying to appeal to people that are not well off and tell them that, hey, it's not because you didn't work hard or because you didn't follow the rules. It's because the mean old businesses are out to get you. To reiterate the Brookings Institute research that Ben Shapiro likes to cite, all you have to do in this country is graduate high school, get a job, and wait until you're older than 21 to get married and have a child. Do not get married and do not have a child until you're 21. Only 2% of people that do these things will be in poverty, which in America means you're making about $15,000 a year for one person. 75% of the people that do these three things will enter the middle class, which means making over $55,000 a year for one person. The reason this is used, and it's so effective but also so annoying, is that it's a lot easier to get votes if you say, hey now, don't be down. You're just not well off because someone screwed you over. It's not your fault, it's the system's fault, which is textbook Marxist class warfare. It's a lot harder to get votes by selling self-responsibility, by selling the idea of, hey, haha, work harder and you'll be fine, when the other guys say, no, just do whatever the hell you want. It's not your fault. And that's exactly what she's doing here.
Growing up in Oklahoma, that promise came through for me and my family. After my older brothers joined the military and I was still just a kid, my daddy had a heart attack and couldn't work. My mom found a minimum wage job at Sears.
Of course she specifies it's a
saved
minimum
our
wage
house
job.
and our family. My daddy ended up as a janitor, but he raised a daughter who got to be a public school teacher, a law professor, and a senator. We got a real opportunity to build something. Working families today
$20
face
says that's a
lot
trail they
tougher
found Hillary
time
hiking on after the election.
And families of color face a path that is steeper.
I hate that. She is so dishonest. Would you like to know why the middle class is shrinking? The middle class is defined by people occupying a certain range of income. The reason that it's shrinking is because people are getting richer. People are moving up. Look at her graph. It's scaled that way so the decline looks very sharp. And it says that from 1970, the middle class shrunk from about 52% of income to about 46% of income. But guess what happens when we complete the graph? When we don't cherry pick information to make America look big and mean? Boom! During that same period of time, the percentage of people making over $100,000 a year jumped from about 10% to 24%. Look, it's literally the same graph, but she withheld the parts that are inconvenient for her. The percentage of people making $50,000 or less and $50,000 to $100,000 both fell, while the percentage of people making over $100,000 went up. Do you know what that means? Since both sets of percentages equate proportionately to 100%, the reason that those two income groups decreased in proportion is because people got richer and joined the $100,000 plus tier. You fool!
And rockier, a path made even harder by the impact of generations of discrimination.
Okay, here's another one. Look at her graph here. Notice the year that it starts, 1983. Why do you think that is? Also, why does she say wealth and not income? People think she's talking about income, but she's not. She's talking about wealth, about net worth, and there's a difference. We know that both black and white income has been steadily increasing for decades. We also know that the rates of both black and white poverty have been decreasing steadily for decades. The reason that the black wealth is lower than whites is because blacks are far less likely to hold investment portfolios than whites. What contributes to your net worth or your wealth? Assets. What are blacks less likely to purchase? Assets. I wonder if there's a connection there. This is why in the graph that she presents, the white family wealth drops so drastically right around 2008 when the markets crashed, and the value of white Americans' portfolios decreased dramatically. According to one poll, only 46% of blacks said they had an individual retirement account or something similar. They're also less likely to own houses, which are the largest source of wealth accumulation for most Americans. And you might say, well, how are they supposed to buy those things if they're making less money? Well, their incomes have been increasing steadily, first of all, but perhaps it's because they're more likely to not graduate high school, more likely to be unemployed, and more likely to conceive a child out of wedlock. Follow the Brookings model, guys. It should be self-evident. It's really not hard.
I've spent my career getting to the bottom of why America's promise works for some families, But others who work just as hard slip through the cracks into disaster.
Once again, trying to trigger
terrifying.
yeah,
These
I
aren't
do work
traps
just
that
as hard
families are
crowd.
falling into. They're traps. America's middle class is under attack. How did we get here? Billionaires and big corporations decided they wanted more of the pie.
The pie? What does that even mean? See, this is what happens when you promote the idea that everyone works just as hard as everyone else. Then people are confused because, well, I work just as hard, but then some other guy has more pie than I do. Then they start to get mad because they don't recognize the differences in work ethic and skill. They perceive money as just some mere thing that everyone should have, including and especially themselves. This is why the idea of billionaires getting more of the pie upsets them, because they're convinced that they're entitled to just as much pie as the guy who invented Microsoft.
And they enlisted politicians to cut them a fatter slice. They crippled unions so no one could stop them.
We're going to turn the bull loose.
Dismantled the financial rules meant to keep us safe after the Great Depression, and cut their own taxes so they paid less than their secretaries and janitors. It's time.
I hate the semantics. Everyone's taxes got cut. When she says pays less, she means as a proportion of their income. Why is that bad? Why is it bad if the multimillionaire is keeping more of his money if he's still paying a higher dollar amount than the janitor or secretary? Because then you can convince the secretaries and janitors that they're somehow getting screwed over because they aren't getting tax returns as big as their bosses. Yeah, probably because you don't make as much money.
To write the rules for the middle class.
After Wall Street crashed our economy in 2008.
Wall Street didn't crash the economy, incentivizing reckless spending by promoting the too big to fail message and then suddenly not following through after bailing out Bear Stearns a few months earlier and then letting Lehman Brothers go belly up, causing the lending markets to freeze up. That's what crashed the economy. Wall Street's only reckless when the government enables their recklessness via financial safety nets.
I left the classroom to go to Washington and confront the broken system head on.
Okay, this is just some self-indulging footage of her being a hero.
I never thought I'd run for office, not in a million years. But when Republicans
I love when they say stuff like that, like, now, I never wanted to do this, but I have no choice. I have to save America. Tell me something more conceited than that.
Today, corruption is poisoning our democracy. Politicians look the other way while big insurance companies deny patients life-saving coverage.
Why do insurance companies deny people life-saving coverage? I don't know. Why does BMW deny you a 7 Series? Probably because you can't pay for it. You could be responsible and get a healthcare plan. They're pretty cheap. Or you could wait until you get diagnosed with a serious illness and then go try and get an insurance company to pay for your surgeries. That's not how insurance companies work. Would you seek out a home insurance policy after your house burned down? No, because that's ridiculous. Is this mean? Is it mean to say this? Oh well, it's the truth.
While big banks rip off consumers, and while big oil companies destroy this planet.
Only
Our
rich white
government's
people have the
supposed to
luxury of
work for
complaining
all
about
of us,
fossil
but
fuels. Everyone
instead,
else is
it has
dependent
become
on
a
them to
tool
survive.
for the wealthy
Environmental
and
virtue
wealthy.
signaling is truly a luxury of the
The whole
rich.
scam is propped up by an echo chamber.
The lack of
of
self-awareness.
fear
You have the media, you have
designed
Hollywood,
to
you have
distract
academia,
and
and you hate
divide
anyone that
us.
disagrees
People
with you.
who
You're
will
calling us
do or
Hitler.
say anything to hang on to power.
Here's some of the ways that the left has divided us. Race, sex, sexuality, religion, political affiliation, income level. Did I miss anything? Probably. Yeah, so that's all you guys, so at least take credit for your hard work. I couldn't do so in good conscience. You've worked too hard.
Point the finger at anyone who looks, thinks, prays, or loves differently than they do.
Build that wall.
But this dark path doesn't have to be our future. We can make our democracy work for all of us. We can make our economy work for all of us. We can rebuild America's middle class.
Why would
But
you want to
this
put more
time,
people in the middle
we
class
gotta
after
build
people have
it
been
for
leaving
everyone.
because they're getting richer?
No matter where you live in America.
Haha,
and no
yeah,
matter
I'm
where
super
your
cool. Everyone
family
likes me.
came
Whoa,
from
I
in
touched
the
a black
world,
person. I'm
you
the for the
deserve
people.
a
Whoa, look
path
at
to
me.
opportunity.
Why is all this
Because
footage
no
of her
matter
hugging
what our
black people?
differences,
That's actually pretty
most
funny.
of us
Why doesn't she hug
want
some
the
Native
same
Americans and
thing.
apologize for
To be
lying?
able to work hard,
about apologizing
play
to the
by
Cherokee
same
Nation?
set of rules, and take care of the people.
Haha,
we
look at
love.
me. I'm gay too.
That's the America I'm fighting for. And that's why today I'm launching an exploratory committee for president. But the outcome of this election will depend on you. In the last 2 years, millions of people have done more than they ever thought they would.
That's actually comically true. She's showing footage of these anti-Trump protesters and saying millions of Americans are doing more than they ever thought they could. Like, yeah, I agree. I doubt any of those people thought that they'd be out in the cold pretending they live in Nazi Germany while wearing pink pussy hats. But hey, you never know what direction your life will go.
Protect the promise of America. And here's what we learned. If we organize together, if we fight together, if we persist together, We can win.
Where's your evidence for that? You organized pretty well in 2016. I mean, you had the DNC, the media, Hollywood, academia, all colluding together for Hillary, and you lost.
We can, and we will.
So much pandering. While it was entertaining, no, you're not going to win, and I'll explain why in my analysis of the 2020 Democrat candidates, or the likely ones at least. That'll be up soon, link to it in the description. But yeah, you can lie, you can pander, you can cherry pick information all you want, but you won't win because everyone else sees through it. I look forward to seeing you try, though, Pocahontas. Her slogan should be like, War in 2020, paint with the colors of America, since she was so adamantly displaying the footage of her hugging every minority group in America. I mean, jeez.
All the voices of the mountain, can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind?